It's the sporting saga gripping the nation. Even Alan Hughes is into this. I mean, it's insane. The GAA has now ordered a replay of the Ireland club football final after the controversy over the 16th Kilmacud Crokes man on the pitch in the goal mouth for the final minute. 30 seconds, was it even?
Like, we could get him watching rugby if you can get the lads to stir up some stuff. Alan Hughes watching this. With this GAA gripe far from over, we're joined by former Dublin footballer Paddy Andrews and former Derry football Gerard O'Kane to discuss. Hello, good morning. It's lovely to have you here. And during that whole break, we're sitting here going, but hold on, and this and this and this and this. It's been fascinating how this has happened. But of course, the GAA, they gave their decision yesterday that a replay, it should be a replay between these two teams. Paddy, how do you think the GAA have handled this whole situation? Because they originally said, well, Glen have to formally lodge a complaint, even though you're looking at 16 people on a pitch when the final whistle blows.
I think the major takeaway, this is 10 days later from the club final, and it was a bit of a farce at the time on the Sunday evening, and it hasn't improved in those 10 days. So I think the GAA's handling of this, the leadership in the GAA it's been a bit embarrassing, to be honest, that we've seen. Anyone who was at the game or watched the game could see within a couple of hours of the final whistle that this was going to be an issue. We could see the photo on social media of the 16 players.
And the referee or the fourth officials, they knew at the time.
At the time it was made.
So they could have replayed the 45.
Exactly. And that nips it in the bud. And this has happened before, like most famously in the All-Ireland semi-final between Dublin and Mayo in 2021, where there's an extra player on the pitch. The 45 is called back and Rob Henley subsequently kicks the score. And the game goes to extra time and Mayo win. That's the most, I suppose, the appropriate way to nip it in the bud there and then. But it wasn't. And then the reaction was in front page of national newspapers. Here we are on national television 10 days later talking about this. The only statement the GAA made in the first 3 days of this was to say, we actually aren't going to do anything here unless the aggrieved club, Glen, appeal. i.e., we really hope you don't, and this will just blow over. I mean, so it's been embarrassing from the GAA's standpoint.
And to put this on Glen is an unfair position from them, Gerard.
Yeah, well, Glen would be quite close to me, and I would know a fair few of them. And whenever they get the word through on Monday afternoon to say, I think they asked for clarification on the Monday morning, sort of unofficially. But once they get official clarification back to say, if you want this dealt with, you have to lodge an appeal. It was difficult on them because you're looking at a committee made up of 10 local volunteers, local businessmen, local businesswomen, just to help out around the town. And that 24, 48 hours after the game for them, trying to get their heads together, they would have to speak to the players, speak to the management. There's so many people involved in it. And a decision like that could have been quite decisive in the community as well, because not everyone agrees with it. So Glen might never get back to All Ireland again.
Exactly. It was a huge occasion for them.
Because I remember afterwards the manager saying, listen, you know, we just have to accept it. But of course...
But he's not from Glen.
No. And
he's just a coach. He could be coaching Kilmacud Crokes next year, you know?
No,
probably not.
I completely understand that and how important this is community. And GAA is meant to be all about community, and it was a huge for Glen to get there. At the same time, the GAA were just following the procedures that are laid out in their rule book. So does something have to be done about that when everyone's looking at this is a farce? You shouldn't have to go, well, subsection B of, you know, paragraph 4.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to back the GAAs per se, but I listened to former Nuctor Nicky Brennan on the Monday evening after it, and he says that while it looks bad, the GAA followed their own rules to a T.
Okay.
And by then staying silent, he actually thought they were showing leadership because they had to sit and take the flak without coming out. But he says that they had to wait until they get referees' report on Monday evening. They had to wait until their hands were tied. Now, for us looking in from the outside, it sounds as if a governing body who manages the rules, who manages the games, can't intervene in their own games. It sounds ridiculous. Going forward, that should be something the GAA should look at. But he says at that point in time that the GAA followed their own rulebook to a T.
So what's going to happen? Because Kilmacud, they're the team that put the players onto the pitch. They had the player standing in the goal mouth. They now have the decision. It looks like they can appeal this. They have a couple of days to appeal it. Looks like that's the way it's going to go. I mean, it's turned into an even bigger farce if they don't go and play the match.
I don't think this game is going to be replayed. And that's the kind of soundings around the city. Crokes are going to appeal this decision and will go to the DRA, the dispute resolution.
What can they appeal?
Well, so if you look at it, this is a refereeing error.
Yeah.
If the substitution is made.
Their player stayed in the goal mouth.
Hold on, Tommy. The decision has been made. The final seconds of the All-Ireland semi-final, it's chaos.
Yeah.
Substitution's made. The linesman's aware of this.
So they threw on 2 players.
They're swapping 1 player.
The 2 players not come on.
Substitution, and Darragh Mullen is the player on the goal line. He's meant to come off. The linesman's aware of this, and the referee needs to stop the game. Okay. You can't come onto the pitch until he is off the pitch. But because there's 30 seconds left of the All-Ireland final, Glen are mad to...
And it doesn't happen, you know that yourself.
Tommy, I've been playing All-Ireland finals, and the only reason I know I'm coming off is my teammate is behind me and touches me on the shoulder. Yeah, and it's such a GAA, we're so professional in so many aspects of the game, that is such a GAA thing, old school. You know, your mate gives you a touch on the shoulder, you have to go off now. And the game is going on behind you. That can't happen. And the fact that this has happened in such a high-profile game, that will be rectified going forward. The GAA have to make a stand on that. But that's how it's happened. Everyone else is caught up in the occasion. The players, the supporters, that's normal. The referees have to be cool there and say, hold on, retake this 45. We understand you're mad to score a goal because it's the last seconds of the All-Ireland final, but this needs to be retaken until the player comes off the pitch. And that didn't happen. And it leads to this chaos.
Do you see where they're coming from, though? Like, there's a lot of people who are kind of going, but, like, I mean, what does it really matter? It's the last play of the game.
Yeah.
But the rules are the rules.
Yeah.
Look,
the arguments of slowing down games and, you know, deadening
the rules
games.
are there for the full 60 minutes, full 62. You know, if that substitution had happened in the 20th minute or 40th minute, there wouldn't be the same frenzy, as Paddy said around it. But whereas Paddy said that the referees are culpable and the officials, Kilmacud at some level has to be culpable. And as much as it was a referee in error, it was also a breach of the rules under Rule 6.44, whatever it was. And the GAA's hands were sort of tied and having to deal with it then once Glen did lodge the appeal.
But even with... just in relation to this, because obviously it is a community matter and it's getting, you know, Kilmacud are a massive, huge team. For Glen, it was a big occasion, but also life is going on around this. And we have got the league after starting, all that kind of stuff. And you were saying that, like, weddings have been postponed, stags have been postponed, and the club are picking up expenses for this.
There's a guy from Glen, the midfielders, getting married this Saturday. His stag was 3 weeks ago, probably planned 6 months ago. They didn't realise they'd be in this position. A gal or Glen had to foot the bill for the guys that weren't available to go, and they rearranged it for last weekend. And then couldn't happen because all the players are left in limbo again. And that's just one situation out of maybe, could be the guts of 100 players between the 2 squads, 20 management team. Life has to go on somewhere.
No, I mean, what a mess.
It is a mess. And whatever I understand, the GAA are kind of backtracking and say, look, we couldn't do anything. This was a scandal straight away, and the GAA have to show, if they don't, by not doing anything and not speaking on this, it allows social media, all the different media outlets, a narrative formed around this. And like I say, we're here 10 days later still talking about this, putting their head in the sands and not making any decision, even if it was on the Monday morning to say the result stands or we're going to replay the game, decisive action, and there wasn't any of that, and it left a gap that we've seen. It's just fuel to the fire.
And there's also been the chat about, well, you know, it's a Dublin team, they're obviously going to get it. Do you know what I mean? From the rest of the country. Going, the GAA are mad for a Dublin team to get it.
Outnumbered here.
Well, we've had that discussion backstage, and I think it might go on after we finish as well.
If it doesn't happen, Paddy, I'm telling you, Community Shield, first game at the start of next season, that's the way to imagine be the most watched club match of all time. It's
Sorry, I just love that there's definitely been given out about the fact that it's a Dublin team between the two of them. Of course, the GAA want a Dublin team. We want to hear from you.